Good Erev Shabbos, everyone. Parshas Vayikra, Shabbos Zochor, Parshas Shabbos before Purim. We're between Tainus Esther and Purim. The Rebbe said in 1955, the Rebbe was speaking that we go straight from Tainus Esther, where we're sitting fasting and crying and connecting to the feelings of Mordechai and Esther, how they felt at the time of the fast, straight to Purim, which is Ad Lo Yada. So we go out of our space, out of our box, out of our limitations. So what do we do on a Shabbos like this year? When even those who are celebrating the 14th, Motzei Shabbos, still we have from Thursday, we have from Friday, Shabbos, Zochor, and then only we go into Purim. It must be that we have to start. We're in a avodah, we're in a middle kind of a way of service, that we go out of Tainus Esther. We haven't yet entered officially Ad Lo Yada, but the avodah is to find Ad Lo Yada, to get out of our limitations now already and celebrate Shabbos, eradicate Amalek, while we're holding the power of Ad Lo Yada, get out of our limitations, out of our space, out of the rationale of the world. And on that note, I want to say a word that the connecting Parshas Vayikra with Purim. In Vayikra, the Alter Rebbe speaks about that it says Vayikra Moshe. It doesn't say who's calling Moshe. The Rebbe quotes the Medrash, and the Alter Rebbe says that Vayikra, we find it says the Malachim speak to each other. It says V'kar zeh al zeh, they call each other. Calling doesn't, the translation it says in the Targum, in the Unkula says, Mikablen de midein, they accept from one another. It says that we finished off the Parsha of Pekudei last week, that says that after they completed the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the cloud of Hashem came down, the Anon came down, and no one could go into the tabernacle, even Moshe couldn't go in, because of the presence of Hashem, represented by the cloud. So then this week's Parsha starts off, Vayikra Moshe, God calls Moshe and says, come in. That empowers, he's Makabla. Moshe receives the ability. That's why it says a small aleph, because we have to condense the energy to be able to make it acceptable for Moshe. And so till today, through Torah mitzvahs, a person is called by Hashem. It says, Karav Hashem l'chol asher yikro b'emes. God is close to all those who call him. Ein emes el Torah, truth is only Torah. It says God is koira kenegdai. When a person learns Torah, God calls, he accepts, he brings the person closer to him through Torah and mitzvahs. But what happens when Hashem doesn't call you? What happens when you feel, like Esther, we know that the story of Purim, Esther represents the Jewish people, and Achashverosh, as it's brought down the Medrash, represents Hashem in certain ideas, like it says, Achris v'reishis shaloi, that the beginning and end of all things is with Hashem. So Mordechai says to Esther, you have to go to the king. We're in a tzara, we're in a situation, you must enter the king's presence. And Esther says, he hasn't called me. There was no kriya, he wasn't calling me, he hasn't enabled, he hasn't empowered me. And I feel that I'm not worthy to go into the king. And the rules are, everyone knows, all the servants know, and all the ministers know that if the king doesn't call you, like it says at the end of Pekudei, you can't go into the tabernacle, you can't go into the space of the king. Mordechai says, this is your mission, you have to do it, you have to make a choice, this is why you're here. And if that could be the whole reason of why you've become queen. And Esther says, Kasher avadati, she says, I'm going to go in, and she fasts. She doesn't look so attractive, whether it's the fasting or the reason why she hasn't been called. But like the Rebbe says in 1951, and we spoke about this Fabrengen powerfully, the Rebbe started off the Fabrengen crying that that when Esther goes into the king, even though she wasn't called, even she wasn't allowed, even though all the dangers that are involved in entering the space of the king, when there's no kriya, there's no calling. But Esther goes in and she enters the palace, she pushes herself in, she goes into the inner chamber because she knows that God's there. And at the end of the day, she and God has a relationship. The soul of a Jew and God has a relationship, notwithstanding if you don't look attractive, notwithstanding if seemingly outwardly God hasn't called you. There hasn't been communication, there hasn't been a language, there hasn't been a Kabbalah, you haven't accepted something. And even if you're feeling alone, you're feeling Ambadad Yishkan, you're a nation sitting alone. Nevertheless, we go into the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Rebbe says, Mishpar Tzecherayin, we push in, because we know the king is there and he's going to answer, he's going to give us a specter, he's going to communicate with us, he's going to take us out and bring a Yeshua, like hopefully we should have this year Yeshua, that when we go into Ad Lo Yada now already we're standing, we have, the Rebbe says this empowers us throughout the year. that we go in, we don't ask any questions, we don't have any limitations, and we should go into Shabbos Zochor, eradicate a Amalek actually, not just in an idea, but a Amalek that's out there in the world tormenting the Jewish people worldwide. The message of Amalek should be destroyed, and we should be Zochor to the Kigula, Amitas Veshlema, and celebrate Purim this year with Mashiach Tzidkenu. Good Shabbos, everyone.